All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio, and today on the telephone we have this year's Tough Enough contestant, Ryan Howe. Ryan wrestles under the name, or has wrestled under the name Diamond Steel in the past. He's competed in Ohio Valley Wrestling. He's previously served as a bouncer, a personal trainer, a private music teacher, and he's even toured the country in an 80s influenced rock band. And also I see that he plays about 27 instruments, starting with the guitar when he was about 5 years old, and we'll talk about all that stuff a little bit later in the interview. But right now, welcome to the program, Ryan Howe. Ryan, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on, and man, I'm glad you got all that information straight, huh?
Well, I try to be prepared when I have my guests on, Ryan, and wanted to get you on and talk to you a little bit about this year's Tough Enough and all going through that stuff, man. But before we get into all that, a couple of weeks ago here we had your fiance, Jessie Belle Smothers, on, man, and I tell you right now, bro, she really speaks highly of you, my man.
Well, you know what? That's good to know. I'm glad she's not she's not pretending to like me then, huh?
Absolutely. It's always good to know that your fiance cares about, or at least likes you, right?
Just a little bit. I don't know.
Very cool. I'm going to tell you something, man. And talking to her, she was really a fascinating guest. And, I mean, she was really open and forthcoming about her relationship with her father there. And that's just a really great story about how she met him and not even knowing that it was him working on cards with them. That's got to be something even for you to kind of be in awe of, right?
Yeah, it is something else. It's a pretty remarkable thing to, I mean, hearing the story for the first time, you know, talking to them and sitting down, it was kind of like, wow, that's, I mean, you meet and, you know, just cool people every day. And in this case, it was kind of a full family to meet. Like, initially, the way I'd met both of them was I was brought down to Evansville, Indiana, to, from up north by Chicago, where I'm from, last year to work an angle with Tracy. And the promotion was Coliseum Championship Wrestling in Evansville, Indiana. And, you know, through that, met Jessie. And I think Pops played matchmaker there. She didn't want anything to do with one of the boys, so that was pretty cool. I'm sure Jessie told you the story, but it's pretty cool that he saw something in me, and I guess personally and professionally.
Yeah, absolutely, and she did tell us that story. It's a great story, man, and I really wish nothing but the best for you guys. Ryan, let's get into a little bit about Tough Enough here. How did you go about getting onto the show there? What was the selection process?
I guess everybody got in a little different way from, you know, that actually made the show. For myself, Jessie had actually received an email from one of the casting directors, and the woman just said, hey, you know who she was, and I think you and Ryan would be great for the show. You're an awesome wrestling couple, and it seems like you guys have a good following and good name on the indies and all this. And so Jessie and I had made it together through the audition process, probably a few months in, really. We got that email back in like early November, I think, and made it through about 2 months worth, I guess, and finally only a week or 2 weeks went by where I kept getting calls, and they decided for whatever reason not to use Jessie like on the couples angle or whatever they didn't want to do this time, you know, and that was that. But who knows, maybe they have her in mind for season 2 or whatever.
Yeah, well, I found it interesting, and I didn't know that they actually had talked to you guys kind of as a couple and was going to bring you in and play up that whole couple angle. Do you have any idea why they decided to go against that, or was that just kind of a behind-the-scenes thing?
You know, I really have no clue why. I mean, I'm just kind of assuming. Like, she did say, you know, the couples thing would be really cool, but that was more her opinion. Yeah. And maybe, you know, the powers that be up there decided that wasn't a good idea to do a couple or to save that for another season or for whatever reason, you know. Maybe, I mean, it was supposed to be the best talent in the country and the most people with the most potential, so they might have thought that, you know, one of us was kind of sort of gifted and the other just kind of got in by association or whatever, you know. There's always the political side of things. People have their opinions and views, so sure. You got to tread carefully, you know? Yeah,
absolutely. Ryan, how long have you been in the business? How long have you been a part of wrestling?
Oh, man. In the business, my body will say it seems like a long 2.5 years, but no, it's only been 2.5 years, man. Actually very fortunate, you know, and I realize that I think about that every day, and all the people that have helped me along the way, and just things that since I decided to get in, it was February, this past February was 2 years. You know, it's ironic because in February I was out filming at the show, and I was filming for that competition, and you know, 2 years a day. A lot of people do this 20 years and don't get that break, you know, or get that TV exposure. So really, really cool. When I did start, I was on the road 300 days a year playing music, and I decided to complete, like, it was like a day-to-night thing. I mean, it was one day I was doing music, and the next day I decided to go 300 days a year on road wrestling. So I trained every day. I went on the road with guys, learned the business, all that. And I said, well, not only you look at music or culinary school or anything, and you're like, well, it's competitive, it's a business, and there's a lot of mental and emotional investment and this and that. Well, wrestling's different in the way that there's physical investment too. Like, if you're not going to do it and go all out with it and try to make it, then you might as well not, because all you're doing is hurting your body and for no reason at all. So, I mean, that's my opinion on it. I mean, I have nothing against guys if they say they like to do it for fun or whatever, but I think everybody that starts for some reason or whatever reason want to be in the WWE or professional wrestling and do that for a living.
Who did you initially train under before all this Tough Enough stuff come about? Did you have a trainer before that?
I was so fortunate to get, there's a lot of guys out there that might not be the greatest people to train with or whatever, but I was fortunate to have a very, very good guy. His name's Rex Hart. He's up in Northwest Indiana, where I'm from. I think the company's NWWA. It's out of Lake Station or Hammond area. Just he had done a little bit of job work for the WWE back when it was the WWF in the mid-'90s. Right. And just really, he taught me a lot of the really what they're still looking for, the realism and this and that. In fact, a lot of the bad habits and stuff that I had and would get just screamed out for in that competition were just habits that I established on the indies, like, the comedic stuff, how to entertain a crowd right there. I mean, WWE, it's about the realism and you're there to fight, you're there to win, and you're working for cameras and people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Rex is a big guy. He knows the stuff. I look back and I'm like, man, he did a good job. So.
I read somewhere where you said that you would kind of wish that you could have unlearned what you had learned before going into that Tough Enough deal there with those trainers, because the training was so much different. Tell me a little bit about the experience of showing up on day one, man. How was that for you?
First of all, showing up, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I purposely said right up to that, blank slate, let whatever they have to say. Don't argue, don't think twice, just do it. As far as the experience, with learning, it was overwhelming. Like, luckily I never had that, I guess kind of prevented myself from getting that starstruck approach where it might have happened to me once when we first saw Stone Cold as we walked out the Tough Enough entrance there on the episode of SmackDown. But aside from that, I tried to totally go in there professionally, look at them as teachers and trainers, not really, wrestling legends and former world champions and all this stuff, training so much knowledge in those 4 trainers alone, not including the guests that showed up and everything. It was just overwhelming to take in that much,
Yeah.
I do wish I didn't realize how many habits had actually been established from the independents. And you know what? I got to be honest, it's not necessarily wrong what we do and learn on the independent. I mean, you're there. I mean, the fans there want to be involved. They want to interact. They, the comedy stuff, whatever. They like that versus WWE, which is a different form of entertainment. You have more aggression. You have more intensity and that kind of thing. It might even be considered boring at an independent show to some degree. Because you're not being whatever. Whatever they're conditioned to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Anyways, down south, I should say, where we wrestle a lot.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Ryan, let's talk a little bit about your deal with Booker T there. And I've read in other interviews where you said that actually he took a kind of a liking to you at the beginning there and kind of spent more time with you than the other trainers. How did it go from that to him snatching you up off the floor, bro?
I guess he said a line after he did that said, don't take my kindness for weakness.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they put that on film or not, but he kept telling me you thought it was just me, didn't you? But I really did, because I thought it was just Bill. Trish had been nice to me up to that point. She'd always kind of had that sweetheart angle with everybody, that when things got a little intense, she was there for him. She was there to listen and reason. And Booker had never, he'd gotten angry at a couple guys, especially Eric, for the physical, like not being physically fit,
sure.
Per se.
Yeah. Right.
That's not to bury him here, but it was so out of place. Just like Bill calling me Skidmarks, I had no interaction with that man up to the point. His first words to me were, Skidmarks are up. And that's the clip they put on TV, and that's what stuck. And here I'm going around the country getting Skidmarks chants, covering my ears, and walking out of arenas,
Right, yeah, I got you.
You know what? In one way, I got to thank him, because it made people remember me. And if for some reason if anything, it just put more attention on me on the show from a show aspect out of the competition. People were like, oh, that poor guy, whatever.
Yeah.
Or they could call me, a pushover and a wuss, and that's fine too, because then, if they remembered me, they remembered me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But,
Ryan, we're up on a break right now. Let me hold you up right there. When we get back from the break, I want to talk to you a little bit. Since you brought it up, I want to talk to you. I wasn't even going to bring that part up about the Skidmarks name, bro. but since you brought it up, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And also, I want to talk to you about your feelings and thoughts on the winner of this year's Tough Enough. And we'll do all that when we get back here from the break with Ryan Howe coming up next on Inside Wrestling Radio.